Ouvem bem? Louder? Can you hear me well? Okay. Good morning, everyone. We'll start our session now at noon. So I'm happy to give you the warmest welcome to everyone here in the audience, but also to our guest speakers and to those watching us via live stream. My name is Fia Barbeiro. I'm a project manager at Calouste Gulbenkian Foundation, and I'm pleased to kickstart today's session entitled Connecting Blue Carbon Experiences, Guiding Climate Impact for a Sustainable Tomorrow. I'm sure many of you are already aware, but today the thematic topic of the day is nature, land use, and oceans, which means that we're invited to reflect upon the nature-based solutions and how essential they are for limiting emissions and for adapting to climate impacts. So allow me first to provide you a few words on the Gulbenkian Blue Carbon project. It's a project that's spearheaded by Calouste Gulbenkian Foundation and has been developed for the past year and a half in partnership with CCMR, the Center of Ocean Sciences, part of the University of Algarve, and ANP WWF. And the project sets to highlight the contribution of marine and coastal ecosystems to carbon sequestration, and as well as the critical role of that these ecosystems play in climate adaptation, resilience, and maintenance of local communities' livelihoods. The project also seeks to lay the basis for investment and for the creation of a voluntary blue carbon market in Portugal. But our goal here today is to go beyond Portugal and to showcase the work being conducted and being done to protect and restore these ecosystems, blue carbon ecosystems, in the community of Portuguese-speaking countries, which together have more than 15,000 kilometers of coastline. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that it's not only the Portuguese language that connects 9 countries, 4 continents, and 300 million people population that compose the community of Portuguese-speaking countries. Ocean does so too. So to dive deeper into the topic, I'm pleased to present you to our guest speakers here today, who I thank for providing their time to share their expertise with us. We have Yara Vasco, Conservation Director at the Institute of Chico Mendes, and a member of the World Commission of Protected Areas at IUCN, who is in substitution of Ana Paula Prates, Director of the Ecosystems Conservation Department of the Environmental Ministry from Brazil, who unfortunately will not be able to join us today as predicted. We have as well Aristide Moate, Coordinator at the Measuring, Reporting and Verification, so MRV, unit of the National Fund for Sustainable Development coming from Mozambique. And finally, Raul Xavier, who's a blue carbon consultant at ANPWWF, standing for Associação Natureza Portugal in Portuguese, in collaboration with WWF, representing Portugal today. So we'll first hear from each one of them and their experiences, which will be followed by a panel discussion on how we can unlock the ocean's potential as a key ally to halting climate change. And we'll focus as well on the conservation and restoration of blue carbon ecosystems in the CPLP countries. But before giving the floor to our guest speakers, I would like to invite you all, after today's event, to consult and to read the 2 documents published under the Gulbenkian Blue Carbon Project. Those are the Blue Carbon, a roadmap for the voluntary carbon market in Portugal, that presents the pathway for deploying blue carbon projects, as well as the scientific report that supports the first document that has made an assessment of the 10 main blue carbon ecosystems in mainland Portugal. Both publications are already available in the Gulbenkian Foundation's website, and will soon have the English versions published after today's event. So without further ado, I'll invite Raul to the stage, and I thank you all, and I hope you enjoyed today's session. Thank you very much.
Hello, yeah. Can you hear me? So, Good morning, everyone here and everyone online. Um, I'm Raul Xavier. I am a blue carbon consultant in WWF Portugal. I also worked for 8 years at the Ministry of Environment in Brazil with climate change issues and deforestation issues. And I'm really glad to be here contributing with this very, very important issue in the Portuguese context. So I would like first to give an overview on blue carbon. I'm not sure if everyone is aware what is blue carbon, so I think it's good to have everyone at the same page. Blue carbon is the carbon absorbed and stored by the coastal and marine ecosystems. These ecosystems has the capacity to store this carbon for long, long periods, up to 1,000 years. And the main blue carbon ecosystems are the seagrass meadows, mangroves, and salt marshes. Of course, there are other ecosystems which are being studied, and especially the kelp forests. But due to uncertainties around the carbon fate, they are not considered as the main blue carbon ecosystems yet. So, what is this a climate issue? Yes, because almost half of these ecosystems has been lost due to human activities, and science shows that between 0.2 to 3% of these ecosystems are being lost each year. And as they store a large, really large amount of carbon, so you can imagine that degrading and these ecosystems will release a lot of CO2 to atmosphere. So it's equivalent to emission of between 100 million and 2 billion barrels of oil per year. This is globally, right? So blue carbon ecosystems are not only good for storage carbon, of course. These ecosystems provide numerous environmental services, provision for biodiversity, and fish stocks, pollination, food production, and it also protects people from flooding from sea level rise. So it is considered a nature-based solution, and it's good for mitigation and adaptation to climate change. The IPCC estimates that between 8 to 14 gigatons of dioxide of carbon will be mitigated by nature-based solutions. And from that, around 1 gigaton can be attributed to the protection and restoration of blue carbon ecosystems. So, now talking about the Portuguese experience, Sophia has already mentioned the Gulbenkian Blue Carbon Project, which is a partnership between these three institutions, where we aim to foster this discussion on blue carbon and to enable blue carbon projects in Portugal. So we were challenged to see how can a company or a foundation invest in blue carbon ecosystem, and then we found out that we needed much more information. So this project carried out a very comprehensive assessment of blue carbon ecosystem in continental Portugal and developed this roadmap for a voluntary carbon market. This project was released at the UN Ocean Conference in Lisbon last year. So in 1 year, we achieved this result. I will show you right now. So this was the scientific assessment coordinated by the CCMR from the University of Algarve. And they mapped and characterized the 10 most important, most relevant systems in Portugal continental, which are distributed all over the coast. They estimate the carbon storage and sequestration rates for each ecosystem, and they found many gaps in knowledge and also provided many recommendations on how we can overcome these gaps. They found out that we have around 12,000 hectares of these ecosystems, but still it could be 2 or 3 times more due to some uncertainties on these scientific assessments. And we also released this blue carbon, this roadmap, which presents specific guidelines for the development of blue carbon projects and recommendations for promoting the development of the blue carbon market in Portugal. Our goal was always to ensure the environmental integrity of projects and related investments. So we assessed some of the enabling conditions for blue carbon projects in Portugal. This is a scheme, an image that is you can find with more details in our roadmap, but I just would like to show that we assessed this feasibility analysis for Portugal, and which is related to availability of ecosystem data, existence of methodologies, the technical, legal feasibility, consolidated knowledge about the activities, and so on. So out of that, in a nutshell, we found out that to promote conservation and restoration of these ecosystems, there is a need to increase knowledge about them. And although this doesn't make impossible to develop a blue carbon project, it's really important that we can move forward. The voluntary carbon market is growing strongly, but it's not a substitute for the urgent need to massively reduce in greenhouse gas emissions. And it's really, really important that different actors be mobilized, including public policymakers, business, NGOs, and finally, some of the recommendations we've done. We can develop methodologies for monitoring coastal and marine ecosystems in Portugal and identify the key threats to blue carbon ecosystems and explore potential management actions, create or adapt a specific legislation, and promote the creation of a portfolio of blue carbon projects. And finally, and not less important, create a blue carbon forum in Portugal, which we already started the discussions. We are involving public institutions, many scientific institutions, NGOs, and I believe this is a very good sign that everyone is involved, and I believe this is the first and really big step that we could achieve out of this project. So I think I'm on my time, and I'll be here for questions. Thank you. I guess I should pass the floor to Aristides from Mozambique.
Good morning, everyone. Uh, I'm very excited to be at this event because for what I could see in the last presentation is the experience of Portugal on this issue of blue carbon. Well, Mozambique is almost in the same situation as Portugal. We have started. We have a long history in doing national forest inventory. In all the process of inventorying the forests, we always include mangrove into that. So we have information of mangrove areas since 1980s, and until now we still update. We update every 10 years. But we have faced a lot of challenge during this process. Is that this information, although we have available, is not being used as it should be. One thing is you have information, another thing is the usage of that information. We started creating a system to monitor annually forest and deforestation in 2080 as well. And we produced annual deforestation data, which includes all mangrove, because the idea is to know what is the dynamic of mangroves in the country. And we are learning that the usage of information again of deforestation is not be taking and this is really a big challenge. I saw in the presentation information on the status of blue carbon in Portugal. I don't know if that information is being used by different stakeholders. The user of the information is not only the academy. The users of the information are the NGOs, the civil society. Everyone should be the user of the information. We have seen example of actions in the country where people talk about things without having data. If you don't have data, you talk about something, which is, to me, is very wrong. We see policies in our country where they're taking without having enough data. And every time we need to have a project developed in a country, people require data. And where is that data? So the problem of data is something that really, really will affect our goal to achieve a sustainable management of our natural resources. So this is the key message I want to convey to all here. Then the second point is coordination. I see a lot of initiative done in silos. We are working, but we are working in silos. The experience is not being shared. I'm talking about the context of Mozambique. Academy, you see groups of professors working in the same institution, each one doing each work, but they don't share the information. And we see thousands of books and articles and dissertation work not being shared conveniently. And this is another point that will affect our goals into a good carbon economy. So those are the starting point of sustainable use of natural resources and blue carbon. I am expecting that this meeting, where we are here today, we can come up with something that Mozambique, Brazil, Portugal could create a linkage between institutions to enhance this cooperation. Because for what I see is that maybe the problems are the same, and we need to address them. If we want to go sustainably, we first need to organize information, data, and make it useful. So this is the challenge I take from you from now. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. As she said, I will speak in the name of Ana Paula Prates, who is Director of Ocean and Coastal Management of Environment and Climate Change in Brazil. I'm Director of Protect the Areas Management in Brazil also. And so it's a great pleasure to join with you in this important initiative in the World in Relation Mangrove. I will read the small text that she prepared to you, okay? We are facing the biggest crisis in all, the climate emergency, which is already showing its veracity and in various extreme events that we are following, including Brazil, with floods in the south, huge droughts in the north and northeast, warming oceans, increasing avian flu, and so on, with deaths of people and also of our wildlife. Climate change is the greatest threat in our time. In the ocean and its association, coastal ecosystems play an essential role in the world's climate balance by absorbing about 30% of the atmosphere of CO2 emissions, regulating heat flows and the planet's water cycles. The service of humanity is under threat due to the effects of climate change, pollution and disorderly exploitation of the resources, which affect the health of the ocean and, as a consequence, reduce its capacity to contribute to tackling the climate crisis. When we took over the presidency of G20 in December, we prioritized the issue of the ocean for countries to work on precisely because it's an urgency. Climate mitigation and adaptation actions are urgently needed, especially ecosystem-based adaptations initiatives. In this regard, mangroves stand out of their whole in providing food, shelter, and livelihoods, harboring enormous biodiversity and acting as huge carbon sinks. Studies estimate that 208 million tons of carbon are stored in the soil of mangrove in Brazil. Conserving and restoring mangroves is an effective strategy for combat climate change. In addition, our traditional coast population live off this ecosystem and are our greatest guardians. In Brazil, we have the largest continued stretch of mangroves in the world between states of Amapá and Maranhão, whereas we have already designed a huge Ramsar site, the Foz do Amazonas and its mangrove sites, comprising 23 federal and state protected areas. But the mangroves extend so far as our southern region up to Santa Catarina state, with an estimate of 14,000 square kilometers. Traditional communities have throughout this area, where we already have more than 120 protected areas, to include federal, state, and municipal ones, and we highlight in the 26 extractive federal reserves that benefit more than 40,000 families. But we are still making efforts to expand our protected areas in these environments, with some areas yet to be created. In addition, with the restart of Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, we have created a new Department of Ocean and Coastal Management in the Secretariat of Climate Change, which is working on policy including ocean and coastal zone in the National Climate Change Policy. The new climate plan that we intend to launch by the end of 2024, we are starting marine spatial planning along the entire Brazilian coast, so important for development of our marine zone to take place in sustainable manner. We also developing a national strategy for conservation and recovery of coral reefs and national program of the conservation of sustainable use of Brazil's mangrove, pro-manguezais, an important policy, public policy that will provide guidelines for action to conserve sustainable use and restore Brazil mangroves. The program are expected to be published in the first half of 2024. Last but not at least, we have developed the Floresta Viva program, management by a National Bank of Social and Economical Development, which is implementing the largest mangrove restoration initiative in Brazil has ever had. This year, in 2023, approximately $10 million has been invested in native projects in all regions of our coast. There will be 1,700 hectares for restoration, generating income, including traditional communities, capturing carbon and preserving biodiversity. We are supporting the Mangrove Breakthrough Initiative, and we are already doing our bit. I wish success for this initiative and once again, congratulations everyone for making it happen. Thank you. And now we will show a very short video about our experience conserving and sustainable use of mangroves in Brazil. Thank you so much.
Agora Deus é tua hora, levantem, vovó, levantem, a trincheira é todo dia, levantem por teus iguais, defende teus manguezais, levantem por teus iguais, defendem teus manguezais.
O Brasil tem a maior faixa contínua de manguezal do mundo.
Levantem por teus iguais.
Thank you very much for sharing with us insight from the company views that are being discussed about it.
Defende teus manguezais, levantem por teus iguais, defendem teus manguezais.
O Brasil tem a maior faixa contínua de manguezal do mundo, um ecossistema que abriga uma riqueza de plantas, animais e comunidades inteiras.
O manguezal se caracteriza como um sistema de transição entre a terra e o mar. Ocorre em diferentes regiões do planeta, nas faixas tropicais do planeta, normalmente em áreas de estuário, onde rios, transportando água doce, se encontram com água marinha do oceano, entre baías.
E o povo que vive na margem da praia, o mar sustenta esse povo.
Essa grande diversidade socioambiental está em risco. A maior parte das ameaças sofridas pelos manguezais vem da interferência humana que avança sobre eles. Fazendas, portos, rodovias, empreendimentos de todo tipo desmatam, poluem ou aterram essas áreas úmidas. Mais do que nunca, esse berçário de espécies e território de povos e comunidades tradicionais precisa de proteção. Para ampliar a conservação e uso sustentável dos manguezais de todo o litoral brasileiro, é que em 2011 começou a ser elaborado o Plano de Ação Nacional para a Conservação das Espécies Ameaçadas e de Importância Socioeconômica do Ecossistema Manguezal na costa brasileira, o PAN-Manguezal, uma política pública e instrumento de planejamento que foi executado no período de 2015 a 2020.
É um PAN pioneiro no ICMBio, né, com participação social, com toda a escuta balizada nas comunidades tradicionais, com a junção de órgãos do poder público, com a organização não governamental, com a universidade presente.
Com essa perspectiva em mente, o PAN Manguezal teve estreita colaboração de movimentos sociais, como a Confrem.
E a gente não tinha, na verdade, voz nos espaços de diálogo, porque nós éramos dos mangais. Porque nós éramos nativos dos mangais, não tinha. Então a gente começou a lutar. E aí que nasce a Confrem, com esse perfil, né, dessas populações extrativistas costeiras e marinhas e da pesca artesanal.
De norte a sul, são 31 áreas estratégicas de atuação do PAN, protegendo 74 espécies-alvo, como o boto cinza, presente em todo o litoral brasileiro, e o guará, que vive no norte e também no sul.
Lembro muito da oficina em Pirajubaé, que veio todo mundo, de todas as espécies de mangue, de todos os seus biomas, das suas comunidades, numa só reunião, falar da sua sabedoria, de como é que era o mangue na sua morada, né? na sua casa, na sua pesca artesanal, como é que era sobreviver do mangue, o que sentia do mangue, como vivia no mangue, o que o mangue era como ecossistema.
O PAN Manguezal, ele inova nessa abordagem ecossistêmica e ele traz essa perspectiva do uso, do manejo dos recursos naturais como uma estratégia para a conservação das espécies.
Esses são dois avanços fundamentais do PAN. Primeiro, a abordagem ecossistêmica, que valoriza a conservação do habitat e de sua rede de interações. Segundo, o diálogo entre saberes tradicionais e acadêmicos.
Isso é a qualidade do conhecimento, né, que a gente conseguiu, a gente poder conversar, né, ter palavras, né, para trocar, né, troca, né, aquela troca de experiência, troca de saber, e a gente está sempre tentando, né, se entender.
Quando a gente vê um pesquisador na nossa área fazendo as pesquisas, a gente ajuda o máximo que a gente pode. É mesmo que dizer assim mesmo, nós fizemos um bolo, preparemos aquele bolo tão bonito para todos desfrutar. Então nós não queremos só para nós, pescadores extrativistas, nós não queremos só para nós comer aquele bolo, não, nós queremos dividir para que seja publicado, para as pessoas poderem lá fora ver o dia a dia do sofrimento do pescador e da pescadora.
Então, o PAN Manguezal, ele traz essa perspectiva da integração entre políticas públicas. E aí nós estamos falando dos comitês de bacias hidrográficas, do gerenciamento costeiro, da própria política de unidades de conservação. Então, todas essas políticas que incidem sobre esses territórios. E esse também foi um grande diferencial, mas também um grande desafio.
No PAN, a gente olha principalmente para as ameaças sobre o ecossistema, e mais especificamente a ameaça sobre as espécies que se encontram em risco de extinção que ocorre no manguezal. Mas é impossível não olhar para essas ameaças já analisando o seu potencial de recuperação.
Esse potencial é enorme. No próximo vídeo, vamos apresentar ações do PAN que contribuíram diretamente para a conservação e recuperação dos manguezais e para a garantia da soberania cultural das comunidades que lá vivem. E fazemos um convite: seja um colaborador dos manguezais, compartilhe esse vídeo e ajude a sensibilizar as pessoas ao seu redor. Os mangues são ecossistemas muito valiosos que precisam da nossa atenção, respeito e cuidado. Você já conhece o Pan Manguezal? Desde 2011, essa articulação entre poder...
And maybe I'll start while Raul is tackling the technical difficulties. Perhaps I'll start with you, Aristide. You mentioned the importance of data collection, that we can only act, we can only protect these blue carbon ecosystems, and here we're talking both, for instance, we know that in Portugal we do not have mangroves, we have seagrass and salt marshes, but then when we look at the entirety of the CPLP, so the Portuguese-speaking countries community, we encompass all blue carbon ecosystems, including mangroves, who, as we've seen, play an important role in biodiversity protection and climate action. So I'll start asking you, and as I was saying, you mentioned data collection and the importance of collaborating, of joining efforts. How can CPLP countries bridge this gap? How can we work together? How we can merge efforts? And as you mentioned, how can we share lessons learned on different blue carbon protection efforts?
Thank you very much. The reason why I put always data in the first place is because the experience shows that when you have data, you can do most of the project and bring solutions that are adaptive to the environment where you work. The video we saw a couple of minutes. We heard the lady saying that when a scientist or researcher come to our area, we are the first to come here and support him. That means that their awareness of the importance of information is critical for the sustainable management of their resource, because community ultimately live depending on those resources. So data is important for decision making. So using that taking from the lady, we can here bridge one gap, information. To have accurate information on the status of your forest or your natural resource, mangrove, I mentioned mangrove, seagrass and salt marshes. You need to have information. So there are institutions working in this topic in different countries, in which we need to map them all and create bridge connections between these institutions, these research entities, in order to get to collect the maximum information and knowledge, so that we can use to improve the quality of the information. Collaboration between research institutions is very important, and CPLP has to do something about it. Second has to do with institutions. We have a government, and the government every 5 years change, and policy change, and the priorities change. And I think that strengthen the collaboration between government into the issue of into the issues of policies on conservation is very important. And we should also address this challenge, in a way of putting in the CPLP agenda the blue carbon economy for all the countries. Then the third is the knowledge center. We are very advanced now. We have different platforms, and I am saying that on purpose because I see young people here. I think that the big challenge for you is to get the advantage of artificial intelligence, to try to connect the information and create a hub where everyone can get access on on this research project about that has to do with blue carbon. I think this way we can manage effectively and move forward in a very fast pace into a sustainable blue economy. Thank you.
Okay, I will.
Sorry, would you like to add something, Yara? We haven't opened yet for questions from the public, but we'll go there if we have time. Yeah, but we'll be opening for questions. I'll jump for a second one prior to opening the questions. And taking from what you just said, Aristide, maybe we can even think of, and Raul mentioned the Blue Carbon Forum in Portugal. Perhaps in the future we could even think of a Blue Carbon Forum in CPLP, who knows? Raul, I was going to ask you now about what are countries doing in bringing the attention to this relationship between blue carbon and climate action, but also in relation to the national determined contributions. We're here at COP today. We know one of the most important topics of the COP28 is the global stocktake that is informed by national determined contributions. So what can we expect that, and how we can merge the ocean with climate action?
It's a very good question. What we found out that for the first NDCs, more than over 100 countries have mentioned blue carbon ecosystems, either on adaptation or mitigation actions. This is very challenging because for a country to consider blue carbon ecosystem in their NDCs, they have to consider that first in their national inventories, of course, so that you can measure whether you are gaining or losing. And this is challenge as well, because for that you need data, you need monitoring systems, and so that's where we started. And I think that it's a way that everyone will follow, because, for instance, in Europe, there is a new regulation, the European Union, that will demand every NDC to, by 2026, to mention the wetlands. And blue carbon ecosystems are included in this definition of wetlands. Of course, wetlands is a broader definition, but the blue carbon ecosystems are included that. So by 2026, the countries will have to show some progress on measuring these ecosystems loss and gains. Yeah, so I think this is the challenge. Many countries have already been improving their knowledge on these ecosystems. For instance, the United Kingdom has carried out extensive mapping on their blue carbon ecosystems, and a lot of countries are doing the same. So I guess it's a way that everyone will follow soon.
Thank you, Raul. I'll now pass the word to Yara. And we've seen the video, we've seen the PAN initiative from the Brazilian government, so public initiative. And I would like to first ask you how or why is it so important, as we've seen, to involve local communities, to invite fishermen, fisherwomen to the conversation on how to protect these ecosystems?
Eu vou falar em português e conto com a tradução da colega. No Brasil, em toda a costa, nós já desenvolvemos há várias décadas um trabalho com essas comunidades, porque são elas que vivem nesses ambientes e vivem desses ambientes. A própria reprodução física e cultural das comunidades dependem da conservação desses ambientes. Então, assim, na verdade, as políticas públicas voltadas para a conservação e uso sustentável têm nessas comunidades os principais atores dessa política. Então, assim, os nossos esforços, na verdade, principalmente nessa faixa, é de buscar o apoio dessas comunidades e as políticas que fortaleçam essas comunidades, mas também ampliando esse debate com os múltiplos atores, porque a zona costeira é uma área de multiuso, né? Então a gente tem esse desafio de fazer esse diálogo com os diversos atores e os diversos interesses que existem de uso nessa zona. Mas existe uma preocupação, um esforço e um investimento exatamente no fortalecimento dessas comunidades para a manutenção dessas áreas.
Thank you, Yara. I'll now briefly translate. So Yara was mentioning that local communities, and as we've seen, people that depend on fisheries, they're the ones that have a high interest in protecting these areas. They're dependent on these ecosystems and their preservation. Yara also told us about that these are the main stakeholders, the main actors who can actually lead and help or deploy implementation, conservation and protection efforts, as well as restoration. And the third point is on the importance of amplifying the debate, bringing these people into the conversation, bringing these people into the mechanisms that are going to be deployed to protect these areas. And she acknowledges the fact that coastal areas are, as we've seen also in the map, in the video, are very long, and it's a huge coastal area. So we are talking about having many different stakeholders, many different actors with interests in these ecosystems, both from a social, economic, and environmental point of view, and with many different interests. So that's really the effort or challenge to coordinate all of those. Perhaps I would like to bring back the discussion on COPs, and then I'll open for questions if we have from the audience. But we're here at COP28 today. We have the Nature, Land Use and Oceans Thematic Day. And I would like to ask the three of you, what do you feel COPs have been doing both for the ocean, or what can the ocean bring to COPs, both from the climate action perspective and biodiversity protection, as well as livelihoods resilience? So how can we merge or strengthen this relationship between ocean and the conference of the parties? I'll start with you, Aristide.
Thank you very much. What I saw on this COP is different from what I've seen in other COPs. Some people might disagree with me, but I see that there's more people showing results of things that they've been doing around the world, which is great. I visited a lot of pavilions and I saw lots of research, innovative research, experience of project, community development initiatives around the world, and good practices. And I think the best practice is to involve people, and especially in rural areas. I could see everything here. And I said, okay, I think that we are almost halfway from what we need to achieve, because the knowledge exists. People in different areas, knowledge in implementing projects, doing awareness, and research and development. This knowledge exists. So what is the missing point around here? It's connection. We need to make the COPs talk more about connection. We should be proud to come back next year while we are connected and doing something and sharing information among countries. So the experience I had here from Brazil is very evident that what they are doing needs to be shared to other countries that are struggling in achieve that. So this co-op to me brought me into my mind like we need to be more integrated, more interconnected, and that's why I mentioned we need to put the young people, working a lot in programming and try to stream process where we and create enabling conditions for us to share the experience we are having in our countries. Thank you.
Bem, o Brasil tem trabalhado bastante. Quando Aristides falou assim, a gente trabalha pela conexão das pessoas, dos ecossistemas, das instituições, porque é dessa forma que a gente acredita que a gente pode avançar numa ação realmente global, né? Assim, vindo desde o local. E o Brasil tem trabalhado duro desde que o presidente Lula, né, assumiu seu terceiro mandato, para que a gente não só se reposicione localmente, né, nacionalmente, mas também globalmente, e da mesma forma trabalhando duro para incluir a questão dos oceanos, né, da proteção da zona costeira e carbono azul nas suas metas nacionais. A gente já está fazendo um esforço grande aqui nas negociações, e como nós vamos sediar a COP30, a gente vem trabalhando nessa perspectiva de ampliar essas ações realmente, para que o que a gente já faz localmente em campo se reflita nesses compromissos mais amplos e ganhe uma escala maior, tanto em nível de investimento como de envolvimento dos diferentes atores.
Before giving the word to Raul, I'll briefly translate. So, Yara was telling us about the effort of the Brazilian institutions to bring the local experience to the global level. And she reflected upon the importance of repositioning and including the ocean into the national metrics, so into the national emissions reduction efforts, for example, having in mind local-based solutions. I think that was the key idea. I'll pass to you, Raul.
Okay, just adding to what my colleagues has already said. Yeah, I think the nexus climate ocean is already evident. The IPCC document has shown that. So we're not talking about lack of knowledge. I think it's just acknowledgement, and I think this issue has to appear more clearly in the documents, for instance, in the global stocktake discussions and mitigation discussions. But I think, yes, we are moving forward. The IPCC has already stated the roadmap of how can we reduce, mitigate, and what is the role of the nature-based solutions, which includes the blue carbon ecosystems. So yes, and adding to this part of the integration, the share of experiences. One thing that we see, that's a lot of really nice things going on. So this is one of the reasons that usually events are not really full of people, because there are a lot of things going on, which is a good thing in a way, not really good thing in another way, because we would like to share these experiences with more people. But what we do here is not just share with the audience, but we are creating this link, and we will be in touch after this. So this was our idea from the beginning. I think we will be creating something that maybe in the next COP we'll be able to show the results.
Thank you very much for the three of you. We have reached our time. Unless there's a burning question from the audience, we'll gladly take it. If not, I thank you all for your attention, for being here. And yeah, let's celebrate the ocean together and let's keep the discussion after today's session. Thank you very much.